Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror film and they discuss it. Today we're talking about 2020/2021's A Quiet Place Part 2, which was directed by John Krasinski. I'm your co-host Alec.
I'm Eric, and with us again, I believe for his 20th time, is Dom Berger. Dom, welcome back to the show.
Oh man, thanks for having me. Officially, so I've been asked to do 20 episodes, but there was one where I was literally vomiting when we were supposed to be recording. So technically, this is 19.
This is 19. Okay. I was
Shit.
going to ask, is this 20?
One shy, I will get 20. I'm bent on it.
Damn, we really wanted to do it before baby number two came, but shit.
Yeah, a little tight
We'll
now.
get you. We'll get you soon.
Oh man, but Quiet Place. So I have not seen Quiet Place 2 before this podcast. So this is a great excuse to watch it. Have you guys seen, I mean, I'm sure you did the first one, right, on the podcast.
Yeah, long, long time ago, and I have not seen this either, so this is my first time too.
Same here.
So let me just ask, so the first movie, what did you guys think? Because it was a big hit, right? Audiences really responded to it. John Krasinski got a lot of credit for his directing, his acting, his whole family, basically, or not whole family, but him and his wife were starring in this movie. Did you like the first one?
Yeah, I love the first one. I thought it was really good. I loved how in around that time, like a lot of comedic directors were starting to come into horror, and I was like, oh sweet, John Krasinski's going doing this too. So, him, Jordan Peele, the guy that did Barbarian. It's like, I don't know. I liked that at that time there were comedic directors doing horror. So I loved it. I loved the first one. I don't know why I didn't see the second one until now, though.
Same. I feel the same way. And I think like the whole Quiet Place universe thing is really cool. I love the first one. I love this one, and we'll talk about that. But this one clearly a bigger budget. You could feel it. But yeah, it was great.
Yeah, what about you, Dom?
Oh, so I really loved the first one. I didn't know what to expect. It's funny, I rewatched the first one to watch the second one. And, the first one, John Krasinski has said a lot that this is a love letter to having children, right? The first Quiet Place. And, I watched it the first time around and it's just got some great character development. The world, there's so much detail to it. And the emotional impact, like as a parent, if you watch that movie, like I was absolutely beside myself a couple of times during that movie. And it just seemed to really have a good focus. And I think the reason I didn't see the second one was because the first one felt like such a complete story. It left kind of off on a cliffhanger, but I thought that was kind of the purpose of it. Like, oh, this is a very kind of complete piece to it. I'll tell you though, this second one, usually when they're like, oh, the budget is bigger and we threw a lot of stuff into it, I get a little suspicious because I'm thinking, okay, it's not going to be so much this quiet beautiful character piece like the first one. It's going to be a lot more with the budget. What are they going to do with that budget? Is it going to be just spectacle? Are they going to try to drive in more people with more action? And they absolutely did that. But you forget, like John Krasinski, that wasn't an accident on the first one. Even the first scene, and I thought it was such a great way to jump back into the story by taking it back to day one. Anyway, so for people, just before we go into the movie, like for people that maybe are unfamiliar, A Quiet Place, it's this post-apocalyptic thing where aliens have somehow come to this planet, aliens or monsters, and they're pretty much impervious to like gunfire and, explosions, and they have super sensitive hearing. So if you make noises, they hunt you, right? If you're heard, you're hunt. That's the whole thing. And the first movie, will obviously get spoiled over the course of talking about the second movie because it picks up right where the first movie starts off. But before I get into, I really did. I love this movie. I thought it was. The whole time I was a little bit skeptical because I was like, they have to get these characters within these certain circumstances to build the tension. And there was definitely times where I felt it was a little contrived, but the kids, man, the kids in this movie continue to act their ass off. The son and the hearing impaired daughter, like they threw a lot of this onto their shoulders, and I thought they did incredible.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think the thing that I latched onto the most was just you saying that like you thought it was a completed thing at the end, and I didn't. I was like, wait, there's still aliens out there or monsters or whatever, and we don't really know what happened besides this farm. We know that there's the fire pits or whatever from the first one, but I was like, the second this one ended, I was like, fuck. ah, like I wanted to know more. So you were like, okay, if this was at the end of it, was her just like with the shotgun killing that one, you were cool with that?
I was.
It felt like
Really?
a
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it felt like a mist or like a novella. The entire movie, the first movie, there's no way to fight back, right?
yeah,
These
yeah.
guys cannot be killed.
They just got the golden gun, baby. They got the golden gun. They're good.
Exactly. Exactly. Like you're like, okay, now they have a way to take out these aliens. And I was like, all right, so next you presume that these guys go off and they essentially what they're like the first step of this next movie. So when I heard there's a Quiet Place 2, I was like, I'm nervous that it's going to get too big on scale. Like they're going to have to like
Yeah, yeah.
take this globally. And I kind of like that they kept it still very local.
Within like 20 miles, right? It felt like maybe 50, like within that, like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And I knew nothing about this movie. So when I saw Cillian Murphy
Oh
here,
yeah,
I was like, holy shit, Oppenheimer is like, they have a star-studded cast outside of like the characters that we know. I
yeah.
loved it.
You knew it was him with the sniper, right? Everyone was like, "Oh,
Oh
I
yeah,
know." Yeah, that was a quick, like, yeah, everyone figured that one out.
yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more, Dom, about I was so okay with the first one being the full circle. I wonder if they intended on a sequel off the bat, or if John was always thinking like, I have this in my back pocket if it does really well. This movie did very, 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 very well. The first one. I want to do a quick numbers thing. I do this with every sequel we do. A Quiet Place 1 came out April 6th, 2018. Sorry, I don't have my glasses. It's an hour and 30 minutes. Budget was 17 million and it made 340 million. 96% Rotten Critic, 83% Rotten Tomatoes audience. Part two, this one we're talking about, just 7 minutes longer at an hour 37, came out May 28th, 2021. A better time to come out for movies, if you ask me. Budget was 60 million, so 3 times the budget more. And the box office was a little less, 300 million, probably because it's a sequel. Tomato, 91%, audience 82%, but you feel that 3 times the budget in this one, especially with the opening scene, which everyone, it's awesome. It's an awesome opening scene.
I love the opening scene. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say in regards to the money, the box office and all that, like I'm sure you guys are right. Like I bet John Krasinski was not planning on making more because if he did, he probably would have been like, we gotta stop the rest of them now, and then it would have ended or something like that. But you're right, it did feel like a completed thing. When a movie makes this much money though, that he doesn't have a choice.
Yeah,
They're like, here's the deal.
exactly.
It's either we're gonna make it or you're gonna make it. So what do you want to do? And then he's like, fuck, all right, I'll do it, which is like not a bad place to be in, but yeah, the opening is great.
It's pretty much as good as the sequel can get for, showing a little 10-minute prequel that goes right into where we left off. And I love that. And then the title comes in A Quiet Place too. I'm like, damn, love that.
Did you guys think it was gonna be a prequel? I mean, I know it's part two, so that'd be pretty lame if it was, but
I didn't know, man. I had no idea. I thought maybe it went back and forth. I didn't know, but it had that opening scene, and it's like that's all we get of John. No more John the rest of the movie. So I liked it. It kept me on my toes.
You watch movies as an adult, right? And sometimes you're like, oh, cool. This is fun. This is great. And then there's other times where they're doing it so well, you forget yourself. Like when Emily Blunt throws the car into reverse and the bus is driving at her, right? And it's all a oneer. It's like one shot the whole time. And the alien is crawling out of the front of the bus, right? It got that ILM support, right? Everything looks really nice. The animations, I'm an animation guy. I mean, we talk about this in 18 other episodes, but like I love doing digital animation. And this is something that it looks so cool, right? And my worry was like, my brain is going, oh, they're going to try to do a Last of Us type thing, right? Because Last of Us is really big, HBO show that was coming out at the time. It was this, they released this and like a soft release in 2020 and then a broad release in 2021. And I was like, oh, this is going to get buried in the pandemic, like it might not do as well. But dude, shame on me for being cynical. Like these are people who all came together and they're good at what they do. The direction's great. There's some really good synced up moments between two different, scenarios happening simultaneously. Direction's great, the environment is great, the animation's great, the acting is great. There's very few things I didn't love about like here, you guys are given a premise to work within, a world to explore and expand upon. And I think that they couldn't have done better. Like it truly, for an hour and a half movie, I think they checked all of my boxes. Do you guys feel the same way?
Well, I wanted to ask you, speaking of the CGI from before, did you watch the Dead Meat episode about this?
Dude, I just watched it 5 minutes ago.
Is it Michael Bay stuff or whatever? I
No,
saw.
no, it's incredible what they do. This is why when you were mentioning it, Dom, I was like, oh shit. Yeah, so apparently the only thing in the movie that's CGI are the aliens. So like all of the barrels getting knocked around and people flying around, all that stuff, that was all practical. So it's like I think that's why it looked so good too. I mean, they say that in the YouTube episode as well, but I was like, this looks insanely realistic. And that's the probably the best thing we can do nowadays is to blend the CGI with practical effects the way that this movie did.
That's what Michael Bay did, and he's in
Oh,
this
oh,
movie. He's involved in this movie. Yeah.
oh.
Oh,
I saw his name in the credits. Like it's like one of the first three credits is like produced by Michael Bay. I'm like, oh shit, that makes sense. It's very transformery with like you just said, Alec. You see the cars flip, and those are real cars flipping, but you don't see the CGI part of it.
Okay.
I don't know if he was involved in the first one though. I don't remember seeing his name in the credits. So I'm curious. I gotta look that up.
When I think of Michael Bay, I think of insanely overused CGI. So that's why I was like, oh.
The comet coming to Earth, yeah. Like that stuff.
Yeah, but no, I thought this movie did a great job of like a hybrid very successfully. I don't know.
well, even the CGI. So this is in the Dead Meat episode, but they talk about the aliens have this like, this their flesh is armor, right? So you can't penetrate it, and their heads are like humanoid kind of, and then they open up like scales or like whatever. And in the episode of Dead Meat, they talk about how those movements of the different plates on the face of the monsters are based off of the movement of seaweed. So
Yeah.
anytime that
Mm.
CGI is based off of a living, moving thing, right? That's when it really sells it for your mind. It doesn't look weird. Typically they would hide monsters in the dark. You didn't see a lot of the monsters in the first movie. This movie, they're out in the daylight, and like my bullshit meter didn't blink once. I was like, nope, I 100% believe, even when they're in full daylight, that these are creatures. I thought that the movements look fantastic. It makes me want to be a better animator. True story.
Yeah, Mike. I just looked up too. Michael Bay was involved in the first one too. So
He's the owner of Platinum Dunes. So
yeah,
I think, yeah, that's like his.
Oh,
he knows a thing or two because he's seen a thing or two. That guy. So
Yeah. I will say though, Dom, you were saying like, you liked everything. There is one huge plot point that I hate that I think almost kind of fucks the movie over a little bit.
I'm so curious. What is it? What is it?
wait, what can we guess? Can we guess what it is?
No, let Alex say it. Let Alex say it. Let Alex
Okay,
say it.
okay, okay,
Say
okay,
it.
okay, okay.
No, I mean like I was like on the edge of my seat up until this point, and then I was kind of like, what the fuck? What are you doing? Is when that stupid kid leaves the baby and then goes upstairs for no reason with a broken leg and then ends up setting off this whole chain of events that basically like fucks everybody over. Like that the lack of like there was no reason for the character to do that. And he also his mom should have been like, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," not just leave and then the kid climb up a ladder with a broken leg, ask her what she's doing. She explains it was crazy. I hated that. I hated that.
I have a different one that's in the similar time frame of the movie, but I think he was just getting anxious and wanting to look out the window to see his mom coming home. And that's what he was doing. He was trying to look out a window and see if she was making her way back because it was pushing an hour.
There's nothing he could accomplish by going up there. There's nothing.
Just it was just anxiety. He wanted to know if he sees her coming in, so he would
Well,
feel calmer.
then he shouldn't have climbed up the stairs and started going through shit in the office. And then, like,
Very dumb.
dude, first of all, his leg is fucked.
Yeah,
Okay. He
yeah.
shouldn't even be walking. First of all, he can't even be walking around with that baby with that leg like that.
Oh, you're like snapped. It's snapped with
Dude,
the bear
no,
trap.
he's not standing. He's sitting with the baby in his lap until the mom gets home. That's reality. Okay. I'm sorry. And the other thing, I'm sorry, just while we're on the unrealistic damage. 24 hours previous to this, Emily Blunt gave birth and stepped directly through a nail. And then she walked 20 miles.
I mean, the resilience of women. I don't know what else to say.
Women can do
They
everything.
can do everything.
Dude,
Uh,
no, I literally, so I was watching it with Maggie, right? And I was like, wow, Emily Blunt looks pretty good for having given birth like literally 12 hours ago. There's no like bed rest, there's no nothing. I will say, so I agree with you, Alec, that the kid going upstairs is like they had to get him out, right? And I was thinking, what would be the way that I would like to have seen it? And I think that they made Killian Murphy with the idea that they're going to keep going with his character, right? So they had to kind of make him someone that needed to be trusted, especially when they introduce all the bad people out there. But this guy has presumably been alone for, he lost his kids day one. He's been alone for 11 weeks, right? I don't think it would have been out of line to make him super paranoid and weird at this point. And if he had said something along the lines of like, don't go in this room, right? Or like put something upstairs, like that's where his wife is rested, right? And he's really protective of it. Like, don't anyone do that. Kind of showing, a similar thing where like they show you something. It's like, don't go in that room. They're going in that room at some point in the movie. But to your point, Alec, he panics. He goes upstairs because the plot needs him to go there. But I think it could have been a cool character moment if, like, I mean, this kid got a lot to work with. He can't be more than 13. Well, maybe older. But when he's talking to his sister in sign language and he's shaking, right? All I can think is the amount of therapy this kid is going to need, right? He watched his father get eaten. He watched his little brother get eaten. His mother, everyone's abandoning him, right? The one person he trusts and talks to is his sister, and she leaves him behind. No one trusts him to take him along or like to protest against what they're doing.
He just went through a traumatic injury. Like, yeah.
Traumatic injury, right? Like all I could think it's just like, oh my God, this kid's just taking it on chin. And at some point, like it's gonna come a knocking. Like there's gonna be some problems.
They're all fucked. The little girl's fucked. Everybody's fucked. Everybody in this movie's fucked.
Yeah, that's very
Really quick though, just to get towards the end of the film a little bit. Another kind of dumb thing is like I know the deaf girl, like she's awesome, she's great, she figured this out. Her going by herself is really stupid. Like she's gonna get killed. But anyways, the thing that kind of like drives the point of this movie, which is why they're doing a prequel, why they're doing a sequel, I guess, is they find a boat and they go to an island, and on that island there are people that have survived and they've kind of rebuilt a little bit. So I kind of want to just get into that a little bit before we wrap up here. But what did you guys think of the ending when they get kidnapped and then they escape and get to the island?
the truth is like, okay, there's islands all over the world, right? Like
Yeah.
lots of islands. And again, I don't know there's three monsters for every like 100 square miles. So there's definitely a lot of aliens going on, especially if it sends the world into turmoil. And they do a little exposition jump where they're like, oh, like, the guy from Blood Diamond is like, oh, we realized they couldn't swim like day one, right? And the Coast Guard was like loading people into boats and whatever. And it was kind of, people's fear and humanity that kind of kept everybody from getting off safely, right? And that's why everyone got killed. I don't love that they can't swim, right?
Yeah.
I don't love it, especially because there are a lot of navies out there that like would be perfectly fine. And there's boats, there's like warships that have
Yeah.
nukes and whatever, like artillery. So at the
Wait,
end,
really quick to that point. These aliens chose a planet that's 70% water
We
and
don't know. We don't know they chose it.
oh, okay, that's true.
It could just be an infected meteorite or something.
All right. And also they're blind. I'm like, these things can't, they're not that great. But anyways, sorry, Dom.
well, I mean, like, so toward the end, Emily Blunt is, trying to take out one of these things on her own, and she has the oxygen tank. And I was like, I see what she's doing, but if she can blow this thing up, you know, set it on fire and kill it, like, then there's no way that these guys would have lasted so long. And I was kind of very happy and rewarded that, he sets on fire, the explosion goes off next to him, and he's unaffected, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, these things come to play. Like you couldn't just go in with like an RPG and blow these things away. But apparently, if you knock them into a kiddie pool, like that's game over.
Yeah, they can't swim, so there is that. But what do you guys think though of the alien getting on a boat and then getting to the same island, which is presumably pretty far away because that crew of people that had all the boats, they didn't think to do that. So somehow this alien did that,
A bit of a reach, no
right?
doubt. No doubt. You got to think the island's close by because the radio's reaching it or whatever. So
Yeah, but then how did the group of like, pirates or whatever that captured Killian Murphy and the other girl, how did they not find that island?
I don't mind that part as much as if that island did exist, right? And I know they're just like, hey, this can Cillian Murphy's completely skeptical of what people become. I don't know why that island isn't just a bunch of people with machine guns in turrets, right? Just like
Yeah.
with a single wall or something. There's no defense. They're all like singing Kumbaya by the fire, and it's like no one has any weapons, any fortification. They could be underground, and honestly, that's the part that bothered me the most is that it's like these people are so trusting and they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
congratulations, you made it. It's like if one of those pirates had made it into that community, he would be doing the most depraved things to everyone.
Yeah, Killian Murphy doesn't look like a nice guy, honestly. I mean, we know he is, but he looks like scary if he just rolled up on your beach.
Also got some Norman Bates on him. He kept his dead wife
Yeah.
in with him. But yeah, real quick too, you think Lee, John Krasinski's character, would figure out there's an island nearby. He has all the maps and stuff. And
Yeah.
it seems like I should probably get my family to this island because it's probably a safe area to go to.
Other thing, really quick. These aliens don't speak English. So why aren't these people like radio broadcasting being like, they can't swim, get to an island? Not the like, all right, maybe if we play like, across the sea or whatever, they'll have to decipher it and know that means like just fucking say that the aliens can't swim. You don't have to say come to our island, but just be like, get to a boat, get to somewhere safe. They can't swim.
Well, not only that, and to Eric's point earlier, you have the golden gun, right? So like you guys have this thing that makes them vulnerable. There's apparently in the first movie they talk about the three in the area, right? There's three aliens that are patrolling their 100 square feet of little neck in the woods. Why don't you make noise, like funnel them in from one direction and just take them out one by one? They're not the smartest, right? They definitely can break through a lot of shit. Like the idea that they can rip with their hands through like metal encasings, like they're not to be trifled with. But all I could think was, all right, if we have a way to kill them, right, and we know that there's this many supposedly in the area, why don't we take out the rest of them? So at least we have a little bit of like a room or something before we venture out into more unknown how many aliens are out there. I don't know. It was driving me crazy that it's like you guys have a strategy, but instead of doing that, you're gonna blow it.
You have guns going off at the end of the movie, though, so it's probably attracting more from further away that probably are in like a barren wasteland again. But I'd be a little scared of making noise and getting overwhelmed by like 10 of these things at once. So I think that's probably the one reason why they don't do that. But my only pet peeve of this movie, I wanted to bring this up, is the pharmacy. Like, you go back there, it's like, we only go back for the supplies we need. Like, we're not going to need another air tank for our baby. We'll just take one. And then she goes back there and takes two and
Yeah.
takes the exact pills. It's like that place should be ransacked.
You know what they needed from that place was condoms because having a
No.
baby during this is the dumbest thing anybody can do.
Oh my God.
There is a prequel coming out this year about this
Mm.
island. So it's about the people on the island. So maybe we're gonna get some answers. Maybe there is an underground base. Maybe we'll get some explanations why they can't use weapons. I don't know. I don't know.
I have a feeling that Jimon Ansu is still alive, and that's going to be how the prequel ends. That sets up the third one. Although I heard the third one's delayed now, which is there's the prequel, a day one, and there's supposed to be a Quiet Place 3. But yeah, I know we got to wrap up though. Alec, I will spin the wheel, pulling it up and spinning. Phantasm 3.
All right. So yeah, continuing our spring into sequels. We'll be doing Phantasm 3 next week. But Dom, thank you, dude, for joining us for your 19th episode. That's huge.
So excited, man. And honestly, this chronicles like each of Maggie's pregnancies is like a certain number of episodes at certain months of pregnancy. So it's nice to kind of know that if I ever want to go listen back at like how stupid I was before kid number one and how stupid I am now before kid number two, just optimistically going into like, it will just figure itself out, right? Of course it will.
We'll keep doing this until you're like, I'm a granddad now, you guys. So,
I would love it, man.
Hopefully we can do it till then. Yeah, I like that.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
everybody, thank you so much for listening into our discussion today on Quiet Place Part 2, and we will see you next week with Phantasm 3.